I decided recently that I was sick and tired of having my alien stuff in a box, so I wanted to go and start displaying the things, but not just like on a shelf like normal. I wanted to try to build up some interesting displays. So I took this, it's one of those like basic Walmart bookshelves, and started putting some various kind of scenes together in it. And I wasn't entirely happy with this either. So I am moving into a project, and it's exemplified by this shelf, I guess, of trying to put together an actual diorama for each shelf in here to depict different scenes. Maybe not super accurate scenes out of the movie, but scenes that kind of have representation of the film and give it a little more life. So I'm going to start here with this Aliens shelf. I'm going to try to build kind of that command center lab out of Hadley's Hope, along with a little bit of the tunnel where the smart guns are. And honestly, like the figures we have as options, it's a pretty complete set from the scene I'm kind of looking at. The only thing we're missing is Gorman, and actually Bishop would have not been there during that scene, but he'll be in here for this one. So this is going to be my kind of prototype. I figured I'd vlog the process of trying to put it together. I think this kind of stuff's interesting. Hopefully some other people will as well. I got all my figures, kind of rough idea figured out. The first piece I picked up was this base here. And I have two of these, so I gotta finish out and cut one down to fit on this side. But these are fish tank gravel filters. And I've seen a lot of people using them for alien displays. And they're really nice. They have a great graded texture to them. So this is going to get sanded down and painted to look more like the floor should. I picked up some balsa wood, or I think it's actually plywood technically, and this is going to form some walls within the chamber here. So I'm going to have one on either side, kind of end capping it, and then there will be a wall here at least to separate out the smart guns from everybody else. Because of how I'm going to structure this, there may need to be another wall somewhere in here. I'd probably leave that with an open doorway, so it would just be like an open hole in the middle of the door frame. And the reason I need a second one is because the other feature I want to include in here is I have another piece of plywood, or basswood, I think, that will go across the top here and make a basically the drop ceiling from the lab or from the command center. And I want to have some xenomorphs crawling up in the air ducts to kind of give that scene. I want to light everything. So initially I was going to have a channel in the middle where it'd have lights pointing up, red lights pointing up for the xenomorphs, white lights pointing down for the humans. Reviewing the scene again, it looks like the lighting in the command center is actually drop lighting. So kind of working on how I want to figure that out. I have the LED strips I want to use, but it's just a matter of actually wiring it and suspending it and having it work correctly. So that may be a little bit of trial and error there. I do also want to build out at least one table for these things to sit on, and probably another table to have some random gear sitting on. And then I'm still trying to get a good idea of the geometry of the background. You know, the main hallways have that very angular shape, and I think the back here kind of went more like straight up and then indented a little bit, and then maybe a gentle arc up to the top. Still trying to figure out exactly what that shape really is. And, you know, if it's not 100% accurate, that's fine. But I want to get as accurate as I can just to give it the right look for all this. So this is going to be an ongoing project, probably going to be multiple episodes of me just trying to get this one. But I am really excited about it. I really am looking forward to getting this together and having it hopefully look as cool as it is in my head. And if this all works out, next up I would probably go ahead and do a Nostromo set for this one. By the way, I just picked up this the Big Chap Ultimate, and I'm really impressed with I mean, the figure itself is kind of what we've gotten before, except he actually has freaking peg holes, so I can put him on a stand, which is nice. But the accessories, the new egg, and the new face hugger, and the new chest burster, like, it was kind of nice having the full life cycle of that version of the Xenomorph all in one pack. I definitely appreciate that. I also got this kind of multi-movie set. Less in a rush to do 3 and 4 for now. And of course, I do have stuff from AVP and Prometheus I could put in here too. Another one, not so much of a rush. I don't know how much I would do with this one, but this is another possibility. This is kind of a hybrid scene anyway, to try to put my Marines and the Queen and Ripley and the Power Loader all together. So I don't know if I'll go full out display for this one, but at least these interior shelves 1 and 2 here, I really want to accomplish. So yeah, I hope this is going to be interesting to some people. I find it really interesting. I'm really excited about it. And we'll get working on this thing. So I went ahead and used my Dremel to cut off the bits that I don't need for this. I am going to hold on to these just in case. But now we have the full floor length. I decided to go with the 2 columns here in the middle so I can actually attach them and have some kind of like pipe work. So I'm basically just going to take some sandpaper, clean up these edges, and sand off. I started here, sand off the logos or the text here. It's just so it looks all uniform. Now I'm probably going to go a full sand over the top too, just so the paint will stick better. So a quick look at how this is now. It fits on the shelf. Pretty happy about that. All sanded down. Letters removed from there. I put the little tubes back in. There's extender bits, so once I figure out the height of the ceiling, I'll put the extenders in to finish out that look. I got the 2 pieces of plywood here on the sides representing what's going to be the edge of the diorama. So I think the next step is going to be figuring out the height of the roof in here, and I'm hoping, I may end up ruining a couple of these in the process of trying, but I want to try to use my mill as like a makeshift router and cut some grooves in here so that these cross panels could actually just slot in and have a bit of rigidity going side to side. Hoping that's going to work out. I'm not 100%. I've never tried. Actually, that's not true. I have tried milling wood before. Went okay. I'm just a little concerned it's going to get messed up at some point in the process. So you know that whole measure twice, cut once thing? Well, thankfully, actually, I haven't cut anything yet. But continuing the mock up here with this, and I realized that to get the xenomorph into a crawling position, he's about 5 inches tall any way you slice, even with the limbs like totally compressed against the body, so it's dragging its chin on the floor and its little whatever these are on the other side, the ceiling, whatever. Yeah, that does not give me any room really to add in the ceiling panels, any of that stuff. So that's definitely a problem. I could ditch the drop ceiling. I don't want to, because I think that's going to add a lot to it. I think having xenomorphs in my aliens display is kind of critical. So the way this thing is set up, obviously all the shelves are movable. So I'm thinking I'm going to actually remove this shelf for now. And this shelf here is the next one down. And this is permanently fixed in place. You can't adjust this one. So I think this is going to become the new base for this. I'll probably add a little extra height to the alien display just so that it can be a little more balanced. And I think there actually is room. The bottom's a mess, so I'm not even going to show it right now. It's kind of cleanup of a previous display I had here, but I think I can actually fit 3, especially because they're ones I care less about, like the obviously Alien 3, 4, AVP, and the prequels. So I don't even know if I'm going to do dioramas for those. I could probably get them in a more compact space. So yeah, I'm going to increase the height of this significantly, which actually will make my life a little easier, because initially I was going to have cut channels in here to run the floorboards across, and I think now I could just glue directly to the top of this and just make a box, and I'm thinking that may make life just a little bit easier so that it's not as much of a, I don't know, like a mess, I guess, as it was going to be. So I'm going to give that a shot. So I'm kind of struggling with how this all should go for the alien crawl space, because there is the kind of grating in the floor here. But I realized looking at the movie again that on the underside, it's like grating everywhere. And on the top, there's like sections of grating, because it obviously was 2 completely different sets. So it doesn't actually match up. So I'm trying to decide what should be where. Yeah, what should be anywhere. So to start building out the roof, or the ceiling, I took these longer boards and added some kind of struts going across them. And a second board's going to go across, and this is going to get repeated at least one more time. And then this mesh is going to go on. I got to get more of this because it's going to go on both sides, the front and the back, to give that full depth effect with everything. But it's going to glue on there and give us that look. Still definitely needs some cleanup work, but this is the rough idea of the first set of grates. This is actually probably going to be more towards the back, and there'll be one up here in the front with a shorter rail of wood in the front to kind of space everything out appropriately. So I just got to get those measurements, but that's kind of cool. I still have to also do the bottom side. I ran out of this mesh, and I need to clean up because the edges didn't line up exactly. I don't know. Let's take a look. can't really see the xenomorph. Actually, you can. If there was light up there, I think you'd see him a lot better. And there'll be a second thing of mesh, so it'll hide it a little more. But I think we are in business with that. Pretty excited. So I forget if I showed the adjusted shelf height last time, but I got the right height in there now. I went and cut the last spacer I needed for the top. It's a little rough with the hot glue, so I'm going to probably go in and try to either sand or trim that down a little bit. And then I'll paint over top of it to kind of try to hide the crimes here. So a little extender piece back here to fill in the rest of the depth. And then I got my 5-inch wide pieces here. So there's one on each side. It's going to be the walls and ceiling for the tunnel itself. Right now my plan is to finish off the bottom here with some aluminum tape to give it an actual metallic look. And then I was going back and forth on how I wanted to run lights in here, but after doing some testing, it actually looks cool if I could have the red light shining through the top of this mesh down into the lower area. And maybe I could rig it up so that there's like a switch where I could have it either full lights bottom and top or just the top lights as I hit stuff and knock things over. So I think it'd be cool to be able to like kill the lower lights and just have the red light shining down. So I'm going to build my roof across here. That's where the lights will sit, and then the aliens will all fit in here, gazing down at not Alien 3. And got the top on, so I get the full idea of what that space looks like. Well, more or less, going to build up the floor a little bit, going to build up the ceiling a little bit, going to put in some detail, but I think we are in the park here. It's interesting, this is one of the older Aliens. I recently picked up one of the ultimate ones, and it's really amazing to see how much better the head moves on it as far as being pulled back, because it's more than just a ball joint, it has like a hinge in there. So if you're attempting something similar, I would recommend, not that it would be, it's easier to get the ultimates now than it would be to get the old ones, I guess, but the ultimate ones definitely seem like they'd be better suited for this kind of thing. So I'm prepping the doorway that's going to lead between the hallway with the smart guns and the main lab, which isn't really super accurate, but it's kind of how I'm playing this here. So looking at the screenshots from the movie, the door looks to be maybe, I'm using Hicks as my reference point because he's kind of leaned up against the door in the scene. So it's about his height when it starts to curve back in at the top, because it's basically angled in the corners. Can't really see the bottom corner, but the concept art shows the bottom corner kind of matching the top, so I'm just going to do that. There is a little bit of a step up, so I'm doing that about 1/4 inch off the base here. Not super high, but high enough to give you something to step over. He's about 2 inches wide, I think, at the knees, so I'm going to go with probably about a 5-inch wide doorway, and then his height, which is right around maybe 8 inches, 7.5, 8 inches. Let's go 7.75, just split the difference, plus a little extra at the top. And because there's kind of a wall on either side of the door, I'm not going to use this piece of foam because it's really chewed up, but I'm basically going to build this little like triangular piece out of this foam on either side to kind of give it that space and that look. Well, that took a little more work than I had anticipated, but I got the pattern down basically. Like I said, it's you can fit maybe about 2 people across in there, which I think seems about right. It's about the right height, matching up with the top of his helmet from standing on the floor, but that gap up there, there's clearance. That's what I'm trying to say here. And there's kind of a border around the door, so this is just the section for it in the vertical dimension. I'll go ahead and pipe it around the rest of this when it's ready. I'm going to do styrene as an inlay in here to have the door with its details on there, so it's a thinner piece that rests inside. One interesting thing with the shape of the floor is actually slightly curved all the way down. It's like a slight sloping angle, and then it drops off drastically right at the very front, at least for how I have it, it's the very front. So it was kind of like, what am I making this straight to? I ended up making it more or less straight to the bottom here. So the door is slightly angled, but the way this all fits together, it's a slight angle over a relatively long distance. I don't think it's super noticeable, and it's just something that's there. So I'd rather have it square to the floor as opposed to square to the shelf, if that makes any sense. And I don't think it's going to be super noticeable once it's all done. I'm taking the top of the vent system and I'm adding in some LED strips. So I kind of marked out the area that's going to correspond below with the grates, just so I can get the lighting to be direct. And every about 3 inches, I'm adding in one of these strips of LEDs. This stuff just comes on a roll. It's pretty cheap, and then it has an adhesive backing on it, so it will just stick right down. I may have to glue this in a little better, but it works right now at least. And then there's multiple pads on here. You can see these little copper bits. So that's the pads you could plug into, and you could cut it wherever you want. And then you strip away this protective coating on the top to expose those pads, and you could solder to that and actually wire everything together. So trimming that bit, so I just have it there, wiring, or I'm going to wire it all up, and I'm sticking it down. I'm going to wire it all up, and just got a few more to go here to add in, and then we could do some testing with this thing. All right, so I got my lights running. Really excited about this. They're actually running not even at full voltage. You're running at 7.4 volts instead of 12. So it's actually going to be maybe like a third brighter than this even, which is kind of nuts. But I'm actually going to be diffusing this. I have some parchment paper, or vellum paper, I think is what it's called. It's going to go over this and diffuse it, hopefully, and give it a more subtle look. It may even darken up that paper just so that it gets even dimmer, because this isn't really supposed to be a super bright area of the construct. But I'm really happy. I'm going to build up some frames around these to give it a little more of a 3D look, and that's where the paper is going to sit. And then here where the wires are, and then just on this side just for decoration, really. I guess it's really for decoration on either. I have this this wire housing, so it's going to sit kind of alongside things and help distract your eye away from, you know, some of the uglier bits. I want to make this serviceable, so I don't want to like screw up the electrical connections here or anything, or make them so they're inaccessible, but, you know, obviously I don't want to have just a big blob of tape there. I'm not sure if it's going to even translate on camera because these are so bright, it's kind of overpowering the lens here, but this is the uncovered side. And then this is it with the vellum paper. In person, it really does a good job of diffusing it out. It's actually 2 layers of paper per piece because it, just the way it wasn't diffusing it quite enough for me. But you can kind of see in here, to the naked eye, it's really obvious that there's all these little individual LEDs throughout these strips. And on these ones, you can still kind of see individual LEDs, but it's a lot more muted. It's a lot less obvious. So I think this is going to work really well, especially because this is going on the ceiling. You're not going to be really looking directly at these, but just in projecting light outwards, it's going to give it a cool like security or emergency light kind of feel. Not quite done yet. I had to stop because I have to go do some work stuff here in a minute, but holy cow, look at that. I think that looks really impressive. It doesn't give quite as much of a red glow down below as I was maybe hoping, but that's okay. I could live with it. That would have been a nice bonus, but not super necessary. But I think if I shut the lights off in here, you'd probably see a lot more of that red glow going through, and also if I move those xenomorphs. But it has a nice metallic feel to it. I'm going to finish the floor on this level with more of the metallic tape. I don't even know if I went into that. So I covered this whole thing with an aluminum tape. It's used for like duct work. I didn't do a super clean application of it for multiple reasons, partly because I'm impatient, but it does give a nice metallic texture to everything. I will probably do the walls. I'm probably gonna do like a Wile E. Coyote kind of tunnel there at the end just to give the illusion that there's stuff back there. But I'm probably gonna coat the walls and the floor up here with more of that to give it that metallic look. Probably gonna dirty it up as well because it's pretty nice and shiny. These ends where you can see the light coming out of the end, I am going to cap that off with another piece of tape. And where I kind of had to cut off, I don't even know if you could tell right now. The ones here on the left have metal over the balsa wood and the paper, and these ones just still have the raw paper and wood. So it's hard to see with the lights on because it definitely does give a crazy effect on the phone. But man, I'm so excited. This is so cool. I'm really excited to see how the rest of this goes. Wiring this next level is going to be a pain in the ass. I'm not looking forward to it because to make it serviceable, it's gonna be a bitch. But I'll figure it out somehow. And I'm thrilled to keep going on this. So in the movie, in the air ducts, there's kind of this conduit run thing in the background. I think it's on both sides actually. So I'm building this out of just some wood. It's going to sit back here, and then I'm going to make the mirroring side coming off this. But it's just literally dowel cut the sides and hot glued together. I was trying to use super glue, but hot glue worked a lot better and was a lot quicker to put together. It's a little crooked in parts, but I think it's pretty crooked in the movie, to be quite honest, so I'm not too worried. And there's the whole thing completed. I think it's gonna look pretty cool when everything's painted up. to weather this up and give it just an extra layer of grit going on here, I basically just took the matte black spray paint. I love this camouflage from Rust-Oleum because it is just a really nice matte black. And I kind of just did a light spray over top of it. Not trying to saturate the color, just trying to get like just a mist of it over everything so we don't block out like the paper here. And then once it was on, I just took a paper towel and just started scrubbing away at it. And you can see it kind of gave areas where it's sunk in deep and it's clean in some parts and not in others. So I think it's a nice little weathering pass. It already dried a little bit too much up here at the top by the time I got here, but I think this is okay with the truss going across. It's really gonna, it would make sense that it'd be dirty underneath all that. Got the main truss, at least one coat on there. It may need a second coat. We'll see about that. But it's about to rain, so I do need to get this in. Actually, it's already raining, so I do need to get this inside so it doesn't damage the electronics, and then I'll leave the other part out here to dry. Got the back wall piece figured out here. This is just going to get the same aluminum tape over it, but then I had this mesh that is actually gutter mesh I'd picked up for another project because I actually had like a thinner mesh in between these that I used for something else, but the backing here I think we'll do a good job of just giving some texture, so I'll probably do black on this. I'm definitely regretting putting so many lights for the lower level. Right now I got just 6 wired up, and I've been basically taking it each one, plugging it in, checking to make sure it works, wiring in the next one. Actually, I've been super gluing it down too at that point because the adhesive on these kind of sucks. Then wiring in the next one, rinse and repeat. So we got 5 left. This is basically where the smart gun's gonna be. So this actually is gonna get a little dimmer light. So I'm gonna do it a little differently. The divide's like somewhere in here between the main command center and everything else. But yeah, just slow work on these, that's for sure. Hell yeah, I'm stoked. Okay, so this is just proto lower level lighting. So it's got kind of the double lights for the main section, the single light over the smart guns. The dividing wall still has to go in. I have to trim it because I wasn't thinking I added this extra little bit of wood here at the front, so I gotta make some notches in that main board, and everything's just plugged in with battery packs right now instead of fully figured out. There's no diffusion in this lower lighting yet. I'm really psyched though. I mean, it's nice and bright from like this angle, but like where I'm actually physically looking at it from a slightly, well, I can bring it up to my head, I guess. Like, I don't know, on camera it even looks brighter. It's dulled out enough in person that I think it really works for the setup. Next, I'm going to build in the diffusers for up here, get that lighting the way it's supposed to be, and kind of take it from there. I did just find out I'd ordered a new 3D printer. I think it's going to be in this next week because it already made it from Prague to Memphis in like 3 days. So I had the door here. I was working cutting it out of styrene and it's having some issues. What I may do is just 3D print out the door. That may be getting modified soon. We'll see. Every little bit of progress of this is just making me so happy. Oh, and I got the background in here too. I didn't account for the fact that it was adding a 1/4 inch thickness to the back. I messed that up, so I'll just have to trim either here or trim off the back. Either way, doesn't really matter. Probably easier just to trim off these front pieces now, but I think that gives it a nice little texture back there. It's not like super standout, but it's not nothing. And then once you put the xenomorphs in there, it's going to obscure a lot of stuff anyway. Lighting and the tubing back there and the truss, all that stuff. I think it's really coming together and I'm very excited. And just to get in a little bit closer with this, it's not focusing right, is it? There's the Xeno in there. So it does take up most of the vertical space. It looks a little big when it's empty, but once you get the xenomorph in there, I think it works out. I am going to be adding stuff to the floor here too that just hasn't been done yet. Definitely kind of clutter this up a little bit more so it has more of a look, but so happy. And just to get more in here, obviously not really detail in here at all yet, but the lighting is really nice and smooth. I went back in and repainted a bit of that truss back there. Having the flat black over the flat black that's on the mesh in the background and having it recessed all the way in, it really wasn't standing out, and I wanted to be able to see it. So I had kind of a silvery paint, just kind of hand painted it, dry brushed it on there. It's a little thicker, I guess, than a dry brush, but it definitely reflects the light a little bit more and gives the impression there's something there, which is what I wanted. Now we have a little bit more 3D effect in here. I'm starting to question now, I don't even think I filmed this yet either, but I did add the tape to the floor to give it that metallic look and did the same painting, weathering thing I did on the ceiling. We could bring the camera in here and actually get some shots inside. So the question is now with these back walls, I think I'm going to paint them black, the matte black, and then build up kind of like a doorway area that pops out so that it can have that sense of depth without actually having any real depth, not really going anywhere. I think that may be how I get around having this be just flat walls on the side where it's supposed to continue on. So I think this is a good cutoff point for right now with episode 1. It's getting a little bit longer here for an episode. So I will be back soon with part 2. Definitely a lot more ground to cover, and I think the next episode is going to be a lot more of the exciting stuff when it comes to actually putting this all together and detailing it out. So I hope you'll join me, and I'll see you then.